Welcome back to my channel. I'm Maggie Ostara, and I am a human design and quantum human design expert and the creator of the 8 Pillars of Feminine Sovereignty. And this is a weekly human design transit report where we focus on the sun and the earth and its transits, but we also have a super powerful, super full moon coming up this weekend. So we're going to go ahead and get started for the transit report for Saturday, August 17th. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. So today on the 17th, the sun is going to move into the gate 29, the gate of perseverance in traditional human design, or devotion in quantum human design. And the earth is going to move into gate 30, known as desire in traditional human design and passion in quantum human design. Its I Ching name is clinging fire, and it is one of the marks of intensity in the chart. So we've got something really deep to dive into with that gate 30, but let's first go ahead and focus on the sun moving into the gate 29. So the gate 29 is on the sacral center. So it is life force energy, primary power for living life. And I love this gate because it's really about what are we devoted to? Right? What are we focusing on? What are we giving our precious life force energy to? What are we deciding is worthy of our attention? And while the sun is lighting this up, it helps us to really pause for a moment and kind of be like, okay, where am I putting my attention? So in traditional human design, it's known as perseverance, which is kind of like the energy to stick with something, right? Persevere, right? You have to have fortitude to persevere. And definitely the sacral center and that sacral energy will give you energy to persevere for sure. But I love its kind of elevation in quantum human design to devotion, because perseverance sounds a little bit like you're just slogging through things, right? And you're just doing your best or using your willpower, right? To just stay with something and persevere. Whereas devotion is really a spiritual quality, right? When we think about devotion, like we're devoted to our spiritual practice, we're devoted to our recognition of the creative intelligence of the universe. And devotion is also highlighting for us, where are we putting our time, our energy, our resources, because that's really what's showing us what we're devoted to. And so you want to have a reality check with yourself during this time, because sometimes we think, oh, well, I'm devoted to this. But then if you actually look at where you put your time or your energy or your resources, are you putting it into that, or are they all going in some other direction? Because sometimes that happens. And we think in our minds, oh, yes, I'm devoted to my spiritual life. And yet, do I have a daily spiritual practice? Am I meeting with my own inner being on a regular basis? Am I doing things to help me to elevate the quality of my energy so that I can have a greater ability to receive the downloads and the guidance that's coming to me from superconsciousness, right? Or am I just have this as an idea and then I'm kind of running in my life and trying to keep up with all of my obligations and all of my responsibilities? Or am I allowing myself to be distracted by things, like television or conversations that I keep chewing over and they've been going on for years, maybe? There's all different ways that we can be dispersing our energy. And in the yogic traditions, we call this spending chi, right? Or spending prana. We're just spending our prana and we're just sending it out there, and it's dissipating and it's draining us. And this is one of the reasons I love working with Kundalini Yoga, which is what I do with people when they work with me in the Sovereign Sisterhood and in any of my programs, is we do energy practices, which are devotional practices that help us to take command of our energy fields. So, come and check out the Sovereign Sisterhood if this is something you'd like to build into your life, and it can really enhance your relationship with your human design. Because human design absolutely is an energy system. Many times people think it's a personality system, but it's not a personality system. It's an energy system. All of these gates and channels and centers and types and strategy and authority and profiles and it's all energy. energy. And so there are different archetypes of energy. So when we're thinking about devotion, right? What is our energy? Where are we sending our energy? How are we devoting our resources? And this is a really great time if you end up feeling like, wow, I'm actually not devoting myself to what I really care about. I'm allowing myself to act out of my conditioning and out of my obligations and out of what I think other people think I should be doing. And for you to make a change. Right? And if it's defined in your chart, you can make a change and it'll lock in. If it's open in your chart, something that you want to keep revisiting and keep revising and keep uplifting so that your devotion is really of the highest possible frequency, is the most effective, and is the most nurturing and nourishing for your own self. So the sun in the 29 is resting on the earth in the gate 30. Now let's talk about the gate 30 because it's really highlighted during this transit. So obviously the earth is here, right? And this is why we're including it in the weekly transit report. And it's on the emotional solar plexus. And so it's emotional energy. Now, a lot of times people are confused about emotional energy in the emotional solar plexus because they think it means our feelings like I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm elated, I'm ecstatic, I'm tired, like those kind of feelings, right? And they are emotions in some sense, but what we're really, the power of the emotional solar plexus is when we take a hold of the creative aspect of this center. And I think part of the reason that it's been highlighted by the human design system, that the solar plexus is not just one. Now we got divided into, we have the splenic center. We also have the emotional solar plexus, which was the solar plexus chakra. And we split these into two because the spleen is really more about fear, right? It's coming out of instinct. And when it evolves, it can become highly intuitive, which can be really beneficial. But the emotional solar plexus, is creative energy, right? It's powerful creative energy. So when we look at the gate 30, we want to look at this and be like, okay, desire, passion. This is intensity. This is the most intense gate in the whole chart. And when we see it defined in somebody's chart, we say, oh, the intensity of that chart is amplified by 10. My Chiron is in the 30. Yeah. So I've gotten to know this energy really well. And we all have this energy, right? Whether it's defined in your chart or not. And while the earth is here, you're being invited to really take a look for yourself. How grounded am I in my own sense of desire, my own passion, things that I just really, really matter to me. How grounded am I in that? Am I allowing myself to feel desire? Am I allowing myself to feel passion, right? Am I allowing myself to get in touch with these kind of deep core energies inside of me? Because frankly, a lot of us got conditioned away from it because it scared the adults around us if we got too passionate, too intense. I mean, I know I was somebody who was told that I was too big, too loud, took up too much space, all of that when I was a kid. And, I still get it sometimes, right? Because I've got a lot of intensity in my chart. I've got the gate 30 defined in my chart. So a lot of us have been conditioned away from that. And then we need to reclaim it because this is such a beneficial energy when we know how to utilize it. Now, it's going to be super highlighted, not just by the earth, but also by the full moon. So during this full moon, the full moon is going to be in the gate 30. This is happening on Monday morning Pacific time or evening if you're in Europe, and or early morning if you're in Australia. I think it's still the 19th. And so you want to be looking out for yourself. How is this full moon landing for me? And you can see here from this image. So the full moon. The moon's in the 30 and the full moon is always in the same gate where the earth is. Okay. So that's one of the ways you can track this. So the moon is always going to be with the earth in a full moon. And so this is really highlighting this up for us. And again, the moon coming in here. So the moon in human design is what drives us. It's like, there's like this power behind us. It's what's driving us forward. So we've already got a super intense gate, which is here in the earth, which is really kind of like What are we grounding ourselves into? And then we've got the moon coming in and saying, okay, how are we going to drive with this powerful energy? So it's really supercharging this full moon in Aquarius. Let me also just say that this full moon is a super moon, which means it's closer to the Earth. It's one of the closest moons to the Earth, which in astrological terms really amplifies the emotional energy that's coming here, as if we needed more amplification with all of this happening in the gate 30. So be paying attention to the way that the energy is rising. And whenever we have a super moon, it's wonderful to go out and take a look at it because it looks bigger than ever, right? Big orange ball. But in addition to that, we know that it's the power that it has is even stronger. And let's just remember that the moon's gravitational force is strong enough that it influences all the waters here on the planet, right? Which includes our own bodies because we are largely made up of water, right? And so we're being really influenced by what's happening here with the moon. In addition to this full moon in the gate 30, we also in the same chart here, we see highlighted the gate 45. So you can see Mars is in the 45 and then Jupiter is also in the 45. And so Mars is just here for about a week and Jupiter is going to be here for a number of months, but they're crossing over right at this point of this full moon. So when the full moon is coming, we're also going to have the gate 45 really lit up by two really important planets. So let me unpack this for you for a second. So the gate 45 is known as the sovereign gate or the gate of the king or queen in traditional human design. And I really think of it as this kind of benevolent energy about receiving and distributing resources, receiving and distributing resources. Now we know historically that the sovereign, the king, usually the king, occasionally the queen, but usually the king would be receiving resources, but not necessarily giving them out, right? They might have been accumulating. They might have been hoarded. This is partly how we get this power over structure, this hierarchy there's a small group of people at the top who have been having all the wealth moving up to them. This is something that royalty really saw us do. And then unfortunately, we've also seen this in the last about 40, 50 years. We've also been seeing this with economic elites have been moving money up to the very top so that we have a very small group of people now on the planet owning a very large portion of the wealth, just like we did with royalty. Well, you know what? That's a problem in my view, right? Because there's lots and lots of people who are suffering in a variety of ways, including people who don't have enough water, they don't have enough food, they don't have enough shelter. We're talking basic human resources, right? Lots of people all over the planet who are experiencing this, while you have a very small number of people who have beyond uber wealth. Like it's kind of even hard to imagine how much wealth they have. So this, in my view, is calling for a revolution. And I think many of us are feeling this way. So one thing to note is that this is actually very revolutionary energy that we're in right now. And Mars is the spiritual warrior in traditional human design. His awakened state is the spiritual warrior energy. He can also be the god of war, right? So he can be like wanting to fight. This is my ruling planet. I'm an Aries sun, right? Mars can be like, yeah, let's just, it can definitely foster conflict energy. But when Mars evolves, right? Mars is that spiritual warrior, does not need violence, has that inner fortitude, has that devotional quality, right? That we were just talking about the sun in the 29. And Mars is able to open up the pathway with this kind of powerful energy to open up new possibilities. Now, we also have Jupiter in the 45 on the same configuration. Now, Jupiter in human design is our blessings. And Jupiter is kind of known as the god of expansion, right? Whatever it is, it expands. And sometimes it can become excessive, but many times it's our blessings. And so now Jupiter is lighting up this gate 45, right? And he's saying, okay, how can this energy, this sovereign energy, evolve into its highest expression, right? And for me, that's when we take on that mantle of stewardship, when we recognize that here as the dominant species on the planet, it's our role, our responsibility to become stewards of each other, of our own resources, of each other, and of our living world for the highest good of all, not for a tiny amount of people who have the uber wealth of the world, right? Like that is not what that's about. So the shadow expression of the 45, okay, is that royal accumulation of wealth, accumulation of resources, and the power over. And so we're in a really interesting time where we have different types of choices to make about how we want to be experiencing these energies. Now, I want to just thank Pam Gregory for pointing out this, and she's not the only astrologer doing it, because we're in such an incredible time right now where there's this Uranus Aquarian energy that's happening. We've got a Saturn Pluto conjunction. There's a lot going on, and I encourage you to go check out the astrology because it tells a different story than we have in human design. But there is a beautiful overlap as well. So I want to show you here. This is the chart of the birth of the United States. And you can see here, so this is 1776, and you can see here the moon is in the gate 30, just like it is on the 19th. And you can see Mars is in the 45, just like it is this week. And Pluto is in the 60, just like Pluto has been for months and will continue through the end of the year. So Pluto, this is where Pluto is at the very end of Capricorn and is moving into Aquarius. So this is like that Pluto, Capricorn, Aquarian shift that we've been in, which is about that breakdown of the old world, right? That's what Pluto is heralding. This is absolutely what happened during the birth of the United States. And so we've got a very, very similar configuration going on right now, and especially with the supermoon that is happening on Monday. Now, in addition to that, in the United States chart, which is interesting, is that they're actually all three of the leadership gates are highlighted in the human design of the birth of the United States. So we've got the Earth in the 38, which is, we like to call it the Martin Luther King gate. It's the stake in the ground. This is what we stand for energy. It's not violent energy. Remember Martin Luther King's nonviolent movement forward into a more progressive world. So this is a nonviolent energy, that 38, but it is kind of intense. We've got that 45 there, which we've just been talking about, that sovereign gate, right, which Mars is lighting up. But then we also have the 31, which is the North Node. So this is what we're moving into, right? So what we're moving into. So there's all three leadership gates being highlighted at this moment in time, 1776, July 4th. And so we've got reverberations of this going on today as well. And the question is what kind of leadership do we want to embody? What kind of leadership do we want to be expressing? So if we take a look at all three of these together, right, we've got the birth chart of the United States, we've got the full moon in Aquarius, and we've got what's going on with that gate 45. You can see all the ways that we've got these reverberations going on, and how different things are coming up again. And, if we just cycle back in time, we think about what was happening in 1776. I mean, I have a complicated relationship to the unfolding of the United States, which I think many of us do because of it becoming an imperial power itself. In the United States was birthed out of challenging colonialism, challenging imperialism against the British Crown, right? And it came out with all men are created equal, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created and that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. The beginning of that Declaration of Independence still has such an incredible power. And it's hard for us now in our time frame to really get how incredibly radical that was back then. It's hard for us to imagine. Unfortunately, the United States became its own imperial power after that. And so it's become more complicated. But there's still this promise at the heart and the birth of the country that said, hey, what if we created a world where everyone mattered, where everyone was supported, where everyone had a piece of the whole, right? Was recognized as an important aspect. What if we had a world that was like that? This was completely radical at the time. And honestly, it's still radical in our world today. So let's just take a pause for a moment, take a breath, and just imagine for a moment, we've got a very similar configuration in the astrology, in the human design happening right now to what we had then. What would be the radical equivalent happening in this moment? Well, some of the things we've seen is we saw that the dictator in Venezuela was overthrown when he tried to make good on bad elections, right? Claimed that he had won the elections, and the populace just said, no, we're not buying it. And so that dictator was thrown out. In Bangladesh, something similar. The people were just like, we're not buying this government anymore. Doesn't matter that, the leader was the daughter of the original president of Bangladesh. It was like, no, she started to have more of that power over that accumulation of power and wealth, right? And in a small group of people, and the populace said no. So we've seen two popular movements recently overthrow governments in two very different parts of the world. Again, this is this Pluto, Iranian, Aquarian energy, right? Which is just blowing stuff up. It's just saying we are not going with this power over the accumulation of wealth among this really small group of people. Well, here in the United States right now, we're also seeing a big shakeup of the old order. Our President Biden, who is in his 80s, who was going to run for re-election, has handed over the mantle of leadership for the next round to Kamala Harris, who is of African and Indian, subcontinent Indian descent. And so when she's elected as our president, she will be the first Indo-African American woman president, right? That is radical, folks. That is radical. Now, whatever you think of all of her politics, she's not perfect. None of them are, but she's got a lot of great stuff going for her, in my view. And just the fact that we have a Black Indian woman becoming our president is an extremely radical move during this time. Now, there could be other things that are even more radical. Some of you who are out there want to see our whole political system, thrown up and reconfigured. That's probably coming, right? And we don't really know what's going to happen over the next few months as we go through the election, and then we go through the new president being inaugurated. And, we have a really intense time happening here, in the United States. We also saw in the UK that the Tories, who are very conservative, hyper conservative, who were passing laws against being able to protest, throwing environmental activists into jail, right? Right? They got thrown out, right? And now the Labour government is in. And a lot of people are saying, well, Labour is better than Tories, but they're not really the radical edge that we want. So I think that we are going to see more of this. I think more is going to unfold. And according to Pam Gregory and other astrologers, even though this is happening on the full moon on Monday, all of this that's happening is going on for months and months. Like, we're in it, right? We are in it. We are in a very potent, disruptive, volatile, chaotic, intense time. And we have a choice to be scared, to be afraid, to be wanting to hold on to what's ours, keep things at bay, or we can get excited. We can get curious. We can say, how can we break apart the structures that are killing our planet, for example, or have made it so that certain people are incredibly wealthy while other people do not have a place to live and do not have water and do not have food. right? And the divide between most of us and this small group of uber wealthy people is kind of reminiscent of what we were happening with royalty. There is a reverberation that's happening now. I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know how that's going to unfold, but this kind of Aquarian energy is breaking things up, right? This Uranian energy, which is like awakening and revolutionary and disruptive. And so my suggestion for you is that rather than trying to just ignore it, right, is to ask yourself, where does the revolution need to happen in my life? Right? Where do I need to break apart old structures? Where can the things that I've just kind of been thinking were the way things are, right? Where can that be changed? And how can I be a change maker? How can I have agency in this moment? How can I step forward, with my courage, right? Take on that spiritual warrior energy of Mars and say, I'm going to stand up for what really matters to me. And I'm going to put my own stake in the ground and I'm going to move forward with that. So this is what's possible for you. You're going to have a lot of energetic support for doing things pretty radical, pretty different, pretty big change. And, I think you'll do a lot better with it if you embrace it rather than fight it. I created the Sovereign Sisterhood to be a supportive, safe haven for us during this really chaotic time. And for us to be able to come together to share with each other about our experiences, to be able to be using human design, to be able to use Kundalini yoga and to use intentional creativity as allies for us as we are moving forward into this new world that we're creating. And so if this is something that you're interested in, if you really truly want to live your human design, if you want to have that kind of supportive network of others who are also on this awakening path, who are embracing the energy that's happening now, and who are saying, yeah, I'm a possibility thinker. I'm a change maker. I'm a seeker. I'm a healer. I'm a teacher. I'm a leader in whatever way that you are in your life, that this is what we're gathering around to do together. And in the month of August, we're really looking at the heart center. We're working with the G center, the magnetic power of the heart. And so you can come and join us and check that out. And of course, the replays will be available there. So the link for that will be down below. All right. I hope that you'll join us. And in any event, that I'll see you again before too long. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.